Chris Sewell here, baseball card collector, investor, dealer, in that order. Welcome everyone. Story time today from the files of Adventures in Card Dealing. This is actually one of my all-time favorite stories. I've told it to a bunch of friends over the years, how the negotiation went. As this is something that happened way back when I first got back into cards, sort of before I knew what I was doing. I don't have anything to show like pictures from the deal or of the cards themselves, as this was maybe 2012 or so, and I didn't keep any financial records on it, but some of the specifics are a little bit fuzzy as to how I remember them. I'll sort of fill them in as best I can. But the negotiation itself, I remember extremely well. That happened basically exactly as I tell it here. So again, it was maybe 2012. I just recently got back into cards and had just decided to try to make a living doing it full time. I'm living in LA and I answer a Craigslist ad for a collection of cards. Craigslist was my go-to way to find card deals back then, although it's nowhere near as good for that anymore. The ad didn't say anything about price, but just showed some pictures of a decent-sized pile of cards, nothing too exciting. I arrive at the location and it's an office building in downtown LA, a very upscale office building to say the least. I go in and I have to sign in at the reception, and an assistant actually escorts me to the elevator and rides up to the floor where I'm supposed to meet the seller, and she holds the door for me and offers me water and coffee. Very, very classy operation. I get to the guy's office and it's like a scene from a movie. It's a massive corner office on like the 10th floor or whatever it is. There's an incredible 120 degree view overlooking LA. The seller is obviously an extremely successful businessman of some kind, mid to late 50s we'll say, and he is clearly a no nonsense type of dude. This isn't him, but this image is pretty close. Certainly the demeanor and his vibe. The guy is not going to take any crap, and there is not going to be anything fun about this business transaction. I was super intimidated from the jump. Today I wouldn't be. I have a lot more self-confidence than I did 10 years ago, and I've been around the card dealing block enough now. Met characters of all kinds, but back then going to look at collections was still very new. I was still learning the ropes regarding negotiating and just my general card expertise knowledge overall. And he didn't make things any easier. He opens with something like, "Don't you dare try to scam me, kid." And I don't mean that in like a funny, joking manner. The cards are front and center on the floor of his office waiting for me. This isn't the actual collection, but imagine a pile of cards about this size. There was some unopened wax boxes, but they were junk wax era stuff, and there were a few boxes of random cards, but I really don't remember the details of what was included. I tell him I'm going to need a few minutes to go through the cards, and he says that's fine. And he goes over to his super fancy desk and just stares at me like a hawk as I go through the cards. He starts gulping down shots of whiskey and lights up a cigar. And okay, the cigar and whiskey thing didn't actually happen, but I feel like it could have. I try to make some small talk, but sort of too uncomfortable to me. What are you going to say to this guy? How's business going? But I finally get through the cards, and there's just not a lot of value, especially given how many cards there are, and this guy's status. It's just a junk wax era bulk collection. There's really not much there. Maybe the most valuable card in the whole collection was like $10 or $20 or something, and it's just loaded with worthless commons, unsellable cards that they're going to have to be given away or donated. I calculated that I would net about $500 from this deal after selling through everything. I actually remember the numbers exactly since I've told the story a number of times. But it's a very crappy $500. I mean, you're going to have to haul all this stuff back home. It's going to take you a number of hours to sort through it. You're going to have to throw a lot of it away, and the stuff's just not going to sell very fast. It's the kind of collection that most dealers would have no interest in. They would simply pass. It's just not worth their time. If they did make an offer, it'd be something very low, like $100. But for me at the time, I actually really liked collections like this. It was sort of one of my bread and butters, was turning bulk junk wax era collections into some value by making lots on eBay. At the time, I would have gladly paid around $250 for this collection, and maybe come up a little bit from that. So I ask him, how much do you want for the collection? And he says, "Nice try, kid. What's your offer?" I'm basically shaking in nerves from this guy who's essentially been staring at me nonstop for 20 minutes now. I'm sure whatever business he's in, he makes way more than $250 an hour. So I'm not feeling particularly good about this, but I'm not going to overpay. So I say, I can pay you $250. And literally before I finished, like before I had completed the word dollars, he stands up and he says, "Thank you for coming in." In that split moment, I didn't actually know if he was saying we have a deal or if he was saying get out. But after a second, I realized he was saying get out. So I say, oh, how much were you hoping to get? And he says, kid, we're not even close. You're wasting my time. If you want to massively, massively up your offer, I'll give you one more shot at this. Well, there's no point in going any further, and I actually really want to leave at this point. I'm quite uncomfortable. So I say, okay, thanks, and I quickly turn and walk out of his office. I remember being out in the hallway, and I couldn't remember where the elevator was. It took me a while to find it, and I finally found it, and then I took the long elevator ride down and sort of regrouped myself, walk out into the parking lot, and looking forward to going home and just sorting cards quietly for a while. As I get into my car, my phone rings and I say, hello, and it's the seller, and he says, I like your style, kid. It's yours for the $250. I'm pretty confused, but I say, really? No, okay. And I head back in and get escorted up in the elevator by the same assistant as before. He welcomes me back into his office. He shakes my hand, and I hand him the cash, and then he calls down and has another assistant bring up a cart to transport the cards to my car for me. He says, well done, kid. You've got some real negotiating talent. Outplayed me on this one. Now that the deal's done, you can tell me, what are those cards really worth? And I say, well, they're really not worth much more than I'm paying you. And he says, come on, you can tell me. And I say, no, really? And he says, that's all right. You don't have to tell me that. But I do like your game, kid. Best of luck to you. And I left, deal done. It didn't really hit me until later that he saw me leaving immediately as a negotiating tactic. It wasn't. I was just trying to get out of there as fast as I could, ready to move on with my life. But he clearly had no idea what the cards were actually worth, and he saw me doing that as a sign of strength regarding my offer. So he decided to take it. Just to reiterate, this guy here thinks that I have real negotiating talent, and he likes my game. Anyway, that's the story. I don't know how the deal turned out. I'm sure it was roughly as I predicted. Not sure that there's a lesson here. I guess if you're ever negotiating a deal with a super wealthy business mogul, just get up and walk away. He'll give you whatever you want. But that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you everyone for watching. I have a bunch more adventures in card dealing stories to share over the coming months, including the time Jeremy and I bought out a dealer at the National in 2017. So please thumbs up and subscribe if you enjoyed this and want to see more. Stay safe and have a great day. Thanks, guys.